Yeah. Yeah, sure. Sure. Wisdom, yeah, that is, if you want to go into the detail on the wisdom chapter, it will take few more sessions, which we have not planned this time. But the gist of which I already explained on the first day. So yes, you are right actually. For people who don't have much time, especially who are not Buddhist, then chapter 4, chapter 6, these are very important. For those who are not Buddhists, even wisdom chapter is not important, because you talk about emptiness, which is, contradictory to believing in a creator God, So things like that. So we'll see how much. Right now we don't have plan to read the whole wisdom chapter, but we'll definitely read chapter 4. We'll be very soon into it, I think. Yeah. But you can ask questions, pertinent questions. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, can you hear clearly? Okay. So we start with verse 42, right? Verse 42. We actually read it, but I'll start from there. O protectors, I so unconcerned, unaware of such terror as these, accumulate a great deal of negative action for the sake of this transient life. This we read already yesterday. Verse 43, petrified is the person, today being led to a torture chamber, that means death, with a dry mouth and dreadful sunken eyes, his entire appearance is transfigured. Yes, nobody wants to die, but when you encounter death, then also not only you are scared of death, but also the dissolution of the elements take place. The earth, the solid part dissolved into water, and then the liquid part dissolved into heat, fire, and then the fire dissolves into wind, right? So when all this dissolution takes place, if you are somebody who's not a practitioner, then you feel the dissolution, that you are losing your entity and you get scared, right? And then finally the consciousness dissolves into, the wind dissolves into consciousness. And within consciousness is also, there is a gross consciousness, subtle consciousness, very subtle consciousness. Finally, all the grosser and subtle consciousness is dissolved into very subtle consciousness, which is called clear light. And then if you are a practitioner, you can stay in that clear light. That's why how great meditators, they remain in that meditative state even after they are declared clinically dead for many, many days. Right? So then you are able to do a very intensive practice there. because now you are using the most subtle consciousness. So that's what also I want to tell you. Now when you do any spiritual practice, what is most important is to involve your thinking, mental consciousness. That's why we talk about the importance of meditation, mindfulness and so forth. Right? Reading is good, listening is good, right? But as a result of your spiritual practice, it must make an impact on your mental consciousness, because what goes to the next life is your mental consciousness, not any of the sense consciousnesses. So this is something you need to know. It's very, very important. Make an impact on the mental consciousness. Going around the temple is good, seeing images of Buddha or enlightened beings is good, listening to Dharma is good, but at the end of the day, you must transform your mind, attitude, make an impact on your mind. As we already discussed, that your mind is your boss. If you make an impact on your mind and make the mind more positive, more calm and peaceful, then it can bring that long-lasting happiness that we were talking yesterday and day before. Right? Make an impact on your mind. Because what goes to the next life is your mental consciousness, especially the subtle most consciousness, and not one of the sense consciousnesses. Okay? So his entire appearance is transfigured. What need to mention the tremendous despair when stricken with the disease of great panic, the panic of death, being clasped by the physical forms of the frightful messengers of death. I don't know where there is really a messenger of death who personally visits to take you away, although there is so much talk about it. But what you do see is when these various dissolution of elements take place, you develop different appearances. Because of pain, because of fright, you start seeing different things, you see. Right? But as we discussed earlier, if you have been a good practitioner, or even otherwise, if you had led a good life, then none of these frightful appearances will come. And also, generally speaking, people who had experienced the near-death experience, they all had not frightful experiences, they all had peaceful experiences. That they enter into a tunnel full of light, and the light is so soothing and soft, it's really inviting. That's what they explain. Okay? And in Tibet we have actually a number of people who had this near-death experience. Now near-death experience is very common in the West. Many people have written books about that. But in Tibet, we used to highly respect those people who had near-death experiences. And having encountered that near-death experience, they come back completely changed person. Then they say, we should all live together, we should all be nice to each other, we should all develop compassion, because they experience that good thing when they are able to experience death. I think this is equal to experiencing the clear light mind, which is so much talked about in, Tantra, right? So you are basically going back to your most subtle, the genuine mind, undefiled mind, right? But when you go there with your experience, your habits, right? So if you have very strong negative habit, you may not be able to enjoy or use that clear light mind, right? So that's the problem. What need to mention, the tremendous despair. Now, this despair is there because we have been thinking about staying here forever. That's why right in the beginning, in the Buddhist teaching, we say you remove the 4 misconceptions. The 4 misconceptions are, we see what is impermanent as permanent. What is suffering as happiness. What is without self as having self. And what is empty, we don't see it as empty. Right? 4 misconceptions. So we have this grasping of permanence. That when you are asked, are you going to die one day? You will say yes. But that's not how we think in our daily unquestioning life. We plan to live. You ask this question to a very elderly person over 90 years old. You ask this question by saying, are you going to die? He will say, yes, of course I am going to die. Are you going to die today? He will answer, maybe not today. You see, that's the problem. Every day you think like this. Not today, not today, not today, not today. That's called grasping of permanence. So that's the problem. This is like you're visiting here in Dharamsala for 2 weeks but still planning to live here, you know. Not confirming your flight ticket, not booking the vehicle, whatever, you know. And then suddenly you say, I want to go, you know. No confirmed ticket, nothing. You'll get a lot of problem. So it's like that. Like that. We are not preparing. Right? So seeing what is impermanent as impermanent, that is why you are now getting this despair. What need to mention the tremendous despair when stricken with the disease of great panic. Because whatever you have been thinking, in reality all those thinking turns out to be wrong. Right? You plan to live in that nice house forever. You can't. You plan to live with your relatives and friends, husband, wife forever. Now you realize you can't. So many things you have planned, those plans are now shattered. I heard this story of one woman, obviously very rich, and she constructed a palace, really almost like celestial palace, somewhere in China. I heard that story. And and just before she was planning to move there, and the house was already constructed, she learned that she is dying with cancer and things like that. And she was so shocked. So shocked. That's an example. That's an example. Especially if you have that grasping of permanence and attachment, and then suddenly things turn out to be the other way, you get completely shocked. But if your mind is prepared, your mind knows the reality, then even if it is you are suddenly seized by this unexpected changes, you will not be shocked because you are prepared. There is also another story of a person who also constructed a very famous, very nice building. And when the building was nearly completed, all his friends were going there, they were saying, wow, what a nice house you made, it's so amazing, you know, things like that. And just before 1 or 2 days, when the family was to move there, the building got fire and got destroyed. Then the friends came to the family and said, we are so sorry. And then that person said, what? For what? We lost just building. All our family members are intact. So I'm not worried at all. You see, there's another way of thinking, you see. Right? Anyway, for ordinary people like us, what he's saying is, what need to mention the tremendous despair when stricken with the disease of great panic, being clasped by the physical forms of the frightful messengers of death. Okay? Now, at such a difficult situation, who can afford me real protection from this great horror? With terrified, bulging eyes agape, I shall search in every direction for refuge. Who do you think is the refuge and protector at that time? Who do you think? Your relatives? Your friend? Your money? What else? Your practice, your good deeds, Your good deeds. Your good deeds will protect you in this life, in the future life also. Right? But here he is saying, in other words, he is saying, who can afford me real protection? Means, is there anybody who has this great compassion and power to protect me at this time? I'm in a very difficult situation. Who will protect me? Upon seeing no refuge anywhere, I shall become enveloped in gloom. If there should be no protection there, then what shall I be able to do? Therefore, I now seek refuge in the Buddhas who protect the world, who strive to shelter all the lives, and with great strength eradicate all fear. Now, don't read this as if the Buddha is the creator. Okay, Buddha is the creator. So what he's saying is, we have been talking about the 4 antidotal powers. Whenever you accumulate any negative deed, then they should be purified by using the 4 antidotal powers. The first we already read, which is repudiating the negative deeds which you've already done. Now this is talking about the object. When you encounter such a difficulty, then you need to take refuge in someone. That's why we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Okay? Because it is the Buddha who is the protector of all beings, and he is the one who is ready to protect sentient beings as limitless as the space. These Buddhas, enlightened beings, they cultivated bodhicitta to help sentient beings. And they possess the 10 powers. In the Buddhas who protect the world, who strive to shelter all their lives, and the great strength means great power, that means the 10 powers. Okay? The 10 powers means the powers that you get, some of the powers you get from your parents. Right? If your genetic inheritance is good, you are strong, you don't get sick, so that kind of power is also there. And in addition to that, you can also perform miracles. You also have this power of primordial wisdom, right? So there are so many powers that the enlightened beings have. The power means knowing what to do, what not to do, being able to read the mental interest and dispositions of sentient beings, the power of having clairvoyance and a divine eye, and the power of knowing the ending of contaminated actions and so forth. Okay? So, this being the case, now likewise, I purely seek refuge in the Dharma, which they have realized clears away the fears of cyclic existence, and also in the assembly of Bodhisattva. So basically he's saying, it's such a difficult situation. The only thing, in addition to your internal practice, if there is any object where you should take refuge, then you should take refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. That's what he's saying. And we discussed this a little bit earlier, right? Buddha means somebody who is completely enlightened. Okay, you can ask a lot of questions by saying, is it possible that somebody get completely enlightened? Who knows everything? Omniscient. That's what we say. Using our mental yardstick, it may be difficult for us to understand that, but at least we can understand that there are people who are much, much more enlightened than us. And especially when we talk about Buddha completely omniscient, we are not talking so much about whether he is able to know the number and shape and color of each and every sands and grains. We refer to him as omniscient primarily because he knows what we should adopt and what we should discard, which many of us don't know. Therefore we get problems. What to adopt and what to discard. There is a beautiful verse in one of the epistemological texts, I think by Dignaag, where he says, Buddha is termed as a valid person, perfect person, because he knows what to discard and what to adopt. Right? Not just because he knows many things. If you call Buddha as very special person because he has special capacity than you, then he says, in that case you should take refuge in vulture or eagle, whose eyesights are much more penetrative and strong than us. They are able to. I mean, you must have watched some of these, presentations that you see in National Geography and other things, where how they see something, a small insect hiding beneath the grass. The grass and all places almost just opens up for him. The eyes, they are so penetrative. They are able to see what is lying behind this mountain and things like that. So different animals have so many different capacities. So not just because of these physical capacities and dexterities. He is the ultimate refuge, valid person, valid object of refuge, because he knows what to practice and what to give up. Okay? But I've explained this earlier, so I'm not going to spend much time here. Okay. Dignaga.
So now there is a two position. When you look at when we Shantideva are reading about Shantideva, and one of the Nipan translation says the word that we see since it's empty, so there's no point in going into the epistemological discussion here. So what's the view of yours on that?
No. Buddhism is a religion based more on the reason, not just blind faith. Faith is very much there, but faith based on reason. So reason means using logic, syllogism, epistemological findings, correct knowledge of the mind. It's very, very important. And I'll tell you one story. When Dignaga was in fact composing this famous text called Pramana Samuchaya, when he was writing this, somewhere in Orissa. Now some people say they are able to locate that place. So in a kind of small cave, he was writing this on a slate at that time. Slate. Every day he write few verses, and then he go out for his alms and things like that. So every time when he returns back, some evil force would come and erase all that out. It happened 2-3 times. Then he wrote something there by saying, if you are playing a joke or making fun of me, please don't do this, because what I'm writing has a great purpose. But if you want to have a debate with me, please make yourself appear before me. So with this, next day somebody actually appeared. A very frightening evil force appeared, and then started debating with him. And when started debating, this evil spirit or whatever, evil person, whatever, could not debate against Dignaga. So what that person did was he, spit fire from his mouth and tried to destroy Dignaga. Then it said that Dignaga felt so kind of disheartened, and he thought maybe there's no purpose for my writing this book, and the verses that he wrote on the slate, he threw it, and he said, as and when this slate falls on the ground, I'll give up my promise of composing this text. And then that slate, this is a little bit mythological, I don't know how true these are, but this is how it says. But that slate never came down. And out of amazement, when he looked, then he saw Manjushri, the deity of wisdom, up there. He said, my son, this is my point. My son, never get discouraged. This epistemological book that you are going to write will become an eye for the future generations. So then he wrote this very famous book. Okay. Yeah. 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 Pramans are similar. We Pramans, when we say Pramans, then we believe that direct perception, inferential cognition. I think 4 Pramans, I think they believe. Prasangika Madhyamikas. One is direct perception, I said, another is inferential cognition, another is the valid quotations. Yeah. Then there is a 4th one, Praman based on giving examples. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So at that time, not only you take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, you also take refuge in other higher beings, bodhisattvas. And you gather support as many as possible. So therefore, verse 49 reads, I, trembling with fear, offer myself to Samantabhadra, to Manju Ghosha. Also I make a gift of my body to the protector Avalokiteshvara, who infallibly acts with compassion. I utter a mournful cry, please protect this miscreant. Okay? Because when you experience the death, you don't only experience the fear of the death, but you also develop the fear, what will be my state in the intermediary state? You die, and before you are reborn, there is a state which is called intermediary state. It is like you are traveling from here and there, and then there is a layover of 6 hours, and then you fear what will happen, whether my luggage will come or not. Something like this, right? And then, when you are reborn, what kind of rebirth? Good rebirth, bad rebirth. You see? So there's a lot of concern. Right now we don't think about these things, so not much worry. Right? Huh? So therefore I also need the support of these primary disciples of Buddha, like the Samantabhadra, Manju Ghosha, Avalokiteshvara, and so forth. Okay. Please protect this miscreant. So now you are saying this. You should not be a miscreant right from the beginning. Right? Because at the end of the day, this is the point, at the end of the day, you have to accept that you could not lead a good life. When we are healthy and physically not sick, mentally well, we forget all these practices. We all think, I'm okay. You also become very proud, and you get distracted with many of the worldly things. But as and when you encounter death, sickness, then you start thinking. Then sometimes, unfortunately, too late. Right? So don't say better late than never. Say early bird catches worm. Okay? Right? In my search for refuge, I cry from my heart for Akash Garbha, Shiti Garbha, and all the compassionate protectors. And I seek refuge in Vajrapani, upon the sight of whom all harmful beings, such as the messengers of death, flee in terror in all directions. So these are great beings personified. It may or may not be true there are such beings living there, but these are all personifications or embodiments of various qualities of the Buddha, the wisdom of the Buddha, the compassion of the Buddha, the power of the Buddha. You need all these things, okay, to protect you, right? Now what is really important is you accept the wrongdoings. Okay? What you are now saying is that in my life I have received tantric initiations. I have also meditated upon certain deities. I have also recited certain mantras. And so what is important is whether you have received initiation, whether you are doing certain recitation of mantra or prayers and things like that. These practices should be there with you all the time, not only in the day but also in the night. If you get habituated with this, then at the time of the death also your meditation will come quickly. But if you're somebody who is not at all familiar with these practices, then you can't teach that person when he or she is on his deathbed. So if you do that, instead of being able to help that person, it might disturb the mind of that person. How can you, even somebody never studied emptiness and bodhicitta, is dying, how can you talk about meditate on bodhicitta? How can you talk about asking him to meditate on shunyata? So for such a person, what is important is to not to disturb that person and probably put something that he likes. Maybe if he likes His Holiness, put his image, photo, or if he's a Christian, maybe the photo of Jesus. If a musician, maybe a guitar or whatever. Something that has a soothing effect on his mind, something that does not disturb his mind. So let that person exit, the consciousness of the person exit from the body peacefully. So it's not a good idea that dying person is surrounded by people who are crying and yelling and shouting, It's very, very disturbing, okay? So now the important thing that you are saying is, this is the thing, Previously I transgressed your advice. As I already said, when you are healthy, wealthy, no problem, you don't think about these practices. In fact, you might laugh at that. What these people are doing? We're in the 23rd century? Right? We are in the 23rd century. 22nd? What? 20th century. I forgot this now. In which century are we? 21st. Okay, 21st century. So they will say, they are talking about a teaching that the Buddha gave 2,500 years back. We are in the 21st century, you said, right? We are in the 21st century. So people might think they are backward, you see. They don't know. Let us enjoy life. There's nothing called God, there's nothing called Buddha, there's nothing called future life because we don't see. People may say or may not say it, but there are so many people who think like this. So they are very brave before they face death. But when they actually face death, then they also get very, very frightened. When they get sick, they also get frightened. So this boasting, doesn't help. So you have to be realistic. So therefore it is important to accept that you have committed mistakes. Previously I transgressed your advice. Now what I want to say here is, not just transgressing the advice, but what we need to think is, as I said already, that we can do a lot of talking, but most important thing is practice. Now when we talk about practice, people might say, what should I practice? There are so many things which you already know. There are so many things you already know. That I should not be doing this. I should be doing this. There are so many things you know. If needed, make a list of all those things that you know it is good. Make a list of those things which you know it is not good. Then stop doing those things which you think is not good. Start practicing those things which you know it is good. Like for example, killing is not bad. Killing is not good, right? So don't kill. Don't kill even insects. Life is precious for everybody. That's practice. At least to start with. Then for more deeper practice, it has to be a little bit more systematic, but there is no shortage of practice. So you need to do this. In Buddhism we talk so much about suffering, problems, things like that, because that is what bothers us. And by that we are not saying that you are all bunch of bad people, no good qualities at all. You have also many, many good qualities. Many, many capacities. So recognize those qualities, good capacities, right? That's important. So previously I transgressed your advice, but now upon seeing this great fear, there's no other way but go to you for refuge. By doing so, may this fear be swiftly cleared away. Again, you should think that earlier you did not listen to the Buddha, did not adopt or practice those that are suggested to practice, you did not discard those which you are asked to discard. Now you are at the last stage, you have this fear of being seized by death. So, just like when you, as I said, just like when you fall on the ground, you take support of the ground itself. So you transgress the Buddha's advice. Now at this difficult time, you should make a promise. I will pay attention to your practice. So I take refuge to you at least. That is what I can do now. I may not be able to practice much because I'm dying, but I take this refuge so that I'm born again to be able to practice under your guidance. Okay? The next is, out of the 4 powers, the next is called applying the antidotes, applying the counter forces. If I need to comply with the doctor's advice when frightened by a common illness like the COVID-19, COVID-19 may be not common, right? More dreadful disease. You need to listen to the doctor's advice. Then how much more so when perpetually diseased by the manifold agitations of desire and so forth, by the negative emotions. So we are so scared of pandemics, epidemics. In a way, the pandemic and epidemic has been there with us for a long, long time. These negative emotions are the most horrible pandemic. Anger, jealousy, hatred, these are pandemics. For other diseases, like the disease from COVID-19 and so forth, you at least have injections, vaccinations. What kind of vaccination is there to remove anger? Is there a vaccination? Huh? No, I'm talking about physical treatments. So really, we need to think about this. For removing all these negative emotions, no scientist has come up with any technological product by which anger is destroyed, attachment is destroyed. So this pandemic of negative emotions are really, really horrible. They are all the time. Now with the COVID, the consequences of COVID-19 extra looks horrible because we are counting how many people died. If you start counting how many people have got killed through anger, it will be 100,000 times more than the number of people killed by COVID-19. I mean, look at how many people are killed in a conflict, under a bomb, under a ballistic missile. We are not counting those things. So we need to count those things and then tell people how bad these destructive emotions are. And especially when that destructive emotion is in the mind of an insane leader. We all know this. There is an ancient Indian story. At a particular place, there was a pandemic and many people were dying. Then one Indian god came, I think Nataraj or somebody came, and he went around to see who is sending these pandemics. Then he found the guy who was sending that spell, that pandemic. He said, "How come you are killing all these people?" Then they start discussing and had some negotiation and dialogue. And then finally that killer, the one who was sending the pandemic, he agreed, they agreed, both of them agreed, that he will kill only one person a day, not more than that. Having made this agreement, but the next day, 100 people died. Then the god Nataraj was very upset. He went to that evil force who was sending the pandemic. He said, "How come, we just made the agreement yesterday and you killed already 100. And that one said, no, I killed only one. The rest 99 died out of fear." This is an interesting story, you see. So many a times it is not just the disease, but it is weakness of human mind, weakness of resilience and so forth. Okay? So if I need to comply with the doctor's advice when frightened by a common illness, then how much more so when perpetually, see that's the point. These pandemics come and go, but this pandemic of negative emotions, they perpetually come and disease us by the manifold agitations of desire and so forth. Okay? If I need to comply with the doctor's advice, means if you are suffering from a dreadful sickness, then you have to listen to the doctor. Even if the doctor says you need to cut one of your internal organs, you have to agree. You have to taste very bitter pills, So you have to listen. There's no other way. Sometimes amputation. So if this is the case, then why don't we listen to the teaching of the doctor, the physician, Buddha? Because his treatment is not like the ordinary treatments. His treatment is very gentle. The other day, as we studied, that you travel from a peaceful path and then achieve that peaceful result, the state of Buddhahood. Okay. Now when you listen to an ordinary doctor, he may be able to cure illness temporarily for some time, but again your negative emotions are with you, so you will continue to suffer. Right? You will continue to suffer. If you read some of the Buddhist texts, you will find all these different diseases actually have their root in your mental negative emotions. Now if you rely on the teaching of the Buddha, then there is a method to completely uproot all kinds of illnesses and diseases. And how much you are able to do is dependent upon how much you are able to understand the teaching, how much you are able to practice it. Okay. And if all people living on this earth can be overcome by just one of these, and if no other medicine to cure them is to be found elsewhere in the universe, then the intention not to act in accordance with the advice of all-knowing physician that can uproot every misery is extremely bewildered and worthy of scorn. See? This is what he's saying in a challenging note. If all people living on this earth can be overcome by just one of these practice, that means removing the negative emotions. As I said the other day, if everybody removes these negative emotions, there is already nirvana on this earth. Nobody fighting each other, nobody bullying each other, nobody killing each other. It's already heaven. Right? And if no other medicine to cure them, there's no other medicine. There are so many different types of medicines, but if you look at the history of medicine, unfortunately, today many of these medicines, they are for business. I was reading a book, Medicine, Its Origin. Some of them are really horrifying. And they'll give you, in some countries they don't have even proper scientific background. And the big companies, I don't know, they supply so many different types of so-called medicines. This is good for your eye, this is good for your leg, this is good for your kidney. We see people in the more advanced countries, almost every day popping up a handful of tablets, which is actually, I don't think very good. Okay? Okay. So therefore, this being the case, the intention not to act in accordance with such a teaching is stupidity. That's what he's saying. I'm amazed people don't look at these teachings seriously. That's what he's saying. Because there is no other cure. For example, if you want to treat anger, how would you treat it? Consult all the doctors, Tibetan doctors, Western doctors, everybody. They will laugh. Say, I don't have a treatment for your anger. Right? So that treatment is found in spiritual teachings. In our case, in this case, in Buddhist teachings. So therefore it is sensible to follow these teachings. And if you don't follow it, you're kind of, then it's something, it is extremely bewildered and worthy of scorn and to be loved about. Gives another example. If I need to be careful near a small ordinary precipice, then how much more so near the one of deep duration that drops for 1,000 miles. That means even when you walk, especially when you walk from here to Meglorganj, there are kind of slippery steps and things like that. You have to be careful, right? You have to be very careful of each and every step that you take to make sure that you will not fall and break your leg. You need such attention. Now, if this is the case, then why don't you pay attention and stop these negative emotions? Because if you continue to cultivate these negative emotions heedlessly, you will fall into hell or whatever. That's what he's saying. So how come you pay attention to your small steps and not to those which will, if you make a mistake, which will throw you into deep hell? If I need to be careful near a small ordinary precipice, then how much more so near the one of deep duration? Deep duration, once you fall into a negative state existence, it will be very difficult to come back. Like if you are born as a dog or a cow, then there's no chance, no possibility to do any practice. If you are born as an earthworm, things like that, no possibility to do any practice. So it will take a long, long time. Very difficult. That drops for 1,000 miles. It is therefore inappropriate to enjoy myself, thinking that today alone I shall not die, for inevitably the time will come when I shall become nothing. So as I already said, death is definite, time of death is indefinite. At the time of the death, the only thing that will be of benefit to you is your dharma practice, your spiritual practice. So therefore it is improper to when it says it is improper to enjoy myself, it doesn't mean you should be sad and in melancholy, don't enjoy life. He's not saying that. What he's saying is it is inappropriate to get completely distracted and get soaked in temporary fleeting enjoyment or pleasures which are not so good for you. Right? And this kind of forgetfulness, and this kind of addiction to sensual pleasures is there because you are not thinking that I'm going to die. Okay? Thinking that today alone I shall not die. Now what he's saying? What he's saying is few things. Number one, death is definite. Because death is definite, therefore I will definitely practice Dharma. Second, death is indefinite, therefore I will practice Dharma right away. And at the time of death, it's only Dharma which is of benefit, nothing else. Therefore, I will practice only Dharma. I mean, there's a big demand for all of us. Practicing only Dharma may be difficult, but what it is saying is, don't just waste your life by getting distracted to many meaningless things. Don't be childish. You are supposed to be a mature person now. Mature person. Even the English, if you think in terms of this English word mature, a mature person is somebody who shows more concern to the well-being of other people than oneself. I'm not talking from the Buddhist perspective. The very meaning of a mature person is not in terms of age alone, but a mature person is somebody who is able to think more about others, not just oneself. Okay? So we are all mature persons. We are not just small kids. Right? So you should be able to make not only 5-year plan, but many lives plan. That's what Buddhism is talking about. Okay? So now this being the case, you should start thinking, be serious. Who can grant me fearlessness? How can I be surely free from this? If I shall inevitably become nothing, that means when I die, how can I relax and enjoy myself? Okay? What remains with me now from the terminated experience of the past? Yet through my great attachment to them, I have been going against my spiritual master's advice. What remains with me now? That over the years you have done so many things, collected so many things, made so many friendships, but what is it that you have now, which is really meaningful? What is it that is really meaningful to you now? There's nothing really much meaning, but we waste our time by thinking about your past experiences. Sometimes you feel very happy thinking about what you experienced. Sometimes you feel very sad thinking about what happened in the past. Then you also plan what will happen in the future. In this way, you are not able to live your life, present life, happily. Right? So that's what he's saying. Yet through my great attachment to them, to your experiences, I've been going against my spiritual master's advice. So he's saying that although this is the reality, but it is very difficult for me to come out of my addiction of what I had experienced in the past. You continue to do the same thing again and again. People are scared of change. That's why understanding impermanence is important. Change is natural law. And we are scared of change. We want to live with the same familiar friends, same familiar place, same familiar house. You know, sometimes it is better to at least live in that place where there's a lot of quarrel and fighting, because you know who should fight, you should fight. There is at least some familiarity rather than going into an unknown place. Right? So you should not be scared of change. Now, when I die, if that is the end of everything, then nothing to worry. Do you think it's the end of everything when you die? There are many people who say, in India, with some people normally we see is, khao pio, moj urao, 4 din ki zindagi hai. In India, sometimes people say that eat, drink and enjoy life. This is only 4 days life, So entertain yourself. Who has seen there is afterlife? Why should you talk about afterlife? Enjoy. Do whatever you want. Is that a proper way of thinking? So people who... This is important because in Buddhism we talk about future lives. Future life is explained on the basis of transmigration of the mind, the transference of consciousness from here to the next life. How does it take place? Transference. We touched on this point a little bit earlier. So the easiest example, I think, is that compare yourself, your today's state, to the state when you were a 2-year-old girl or boy. Compare the photos. Are they same or different? You as you are today and you as you were when you were 2-3 years old, same or different? Different. Different means you never born. If it's different, then you never born. So actually we discussed this like the stream flow of the stream from the mountain to the ocean. We discussed this already. So the continuity is there. Therefore we say, I'm the same person. This is my picture when I was 2 years old, when I was going to the university. So you see it is same because of the continuity. So similar is the case. The continuity will go on. The body changes, therefore you are saying different. Yes, you are right, different. And scientifically they say that the physical change that takes over is so much that after 7 years, there is nothing, no trace is left of the previous person. After 7 years, there is a complete change. Scientifically they say your cells, your, whatever, parts of the body completely undergo change. So therefore there's a story of a criminal who was caught and imprisoned. Then after 7 years of imprisonment, he said, please release me, I'm totally different person. So if you know some of these realities, you may be, yeah. So you can say I'm different person. I'm not the one who committed the, you can steal and then say I'm different person, right? But we say same in the sense of continuity, Another example is, tonight when you go to bed, you are more or less dead. I'm not saying you are dead, okay? There is a story of a Tibetan joke. There was a not so intelligent person who had heard that when your feet, sole of your feet becomes green, that it means you are dead. So he walked on a green grass with a barefoot, and then suddenly he saw the sole of his feet has become green. So he lied down, thinking that I'm dead. But he was watching, he's not dead, so he was able to see whatever is happening. So somebody came, a businessman, with 6-7 donkeys came. And among those donkeys, there was one very, very stubborn. He just laid down because he's carrying heavy, load. He just lied down and refused to get up. And the man was trying to, lift that donkey. So this man, he said, this is not the way you should lift the donkey. The only problem is I'm dead, otherwise I can help you. so, so, so I'm not saying you're dead, when you sleep. But what I'm saying is, it's really like almost like similar to death. Your senses, sleep means when you withdraw all your senses, that's called sleep. Your eyes can't see anything, you can't smell anything. But the interesting thing is when you sleep, and especially when you are, in deep sleep state, the consciousness actually becomes much more active. You may be peacefully sleeping in Tushita, but your mind is shopping in New York. Do you get such a dream? What is happening there? Shopping or going with friend, picnicking, whatever, or fighting, so many things. Mind becomes very active. And some of the dreams you get are so vivid. You meet people, you talk to them, you smile and you laugh, you clap your hand, whatever, so many things. So what does that indicate? For me, it indicates the possibilities of the mind getting completely separated from the body. And that is what happens when you die. The mind, when we are alive, then the grosser level of the mind is very much dependent on the brain and other parts of the physical body. But when you die, and especially go into the subtle consciousness, then the mind becomes actually free from its dependence on the body. Okay? So there is no death in the true sense of the term. That so-called death means death of the body. Okay.
Is it a little bit the same idea, like if you have lucid dreams and you're dreaming, but you know you're dreaming?
Yeah, in Tibetan Buddhism there is a process of practicing meditation during the dream. Okay? Lucid dreaming, yeah. Okay. Having departed from this life and from all my friends and relatives, if all alone I must go elsewhere, what is the use of making friends and enemies? Is there any use to have friends? Enemy, of course, not much use. But at least there may be some benefits to have good friends. But this one is saying, what is the use of making friends? This is too much, huh? What he's saying is he's not saying that don't make friends. He encourages making friendship with all sentient beings. So here what he's saying is, making friendship and thinking that this will be the source of my long-lasting happiness and peace, that is misplaced. In that sense, if you are somebody who is really totally dedicated to achieve liberation, nirvana and complete happiness, then depending too much friendship, material prosperity, they're not going to help you. That's what he's saying. But he's not saying don't make friendship. Okay? Should have good friends. We are ordinary people. We need support, physical support, mental support. We need good friends. So as a spiritual practitioner, it's really, really important to stay away from unhealthy, negative people. Right? Not with resentment and anger and hatred, but because you are vulnerable. You are an ordinary individual. You will be affected in that sense. Now, who are your good friends? Your good friends are those, not just those who give you money, but your good friends are those in whose association, if you're listening to the Dharma, increases. If your thinking on Dharma increases, meditation on Dharma increases, then you are clearly in association with good friend. And your false decrease. Okay? Now bad friends are those in whose association your love reduces, your compassion decreases, your listening, thinking and meditation on Dharma also decreases. Then clearly you are in association with a bad friend. That's the demarcation. A bad friend will not come to you with, horrible looking face and teeth and wearing black colored cloth, not like that. Okay, they will also come to you as a very good friend. They'll also spend money for you, but they'll take you in the wrong place. Okay. How can I be surely freed from unwholesomeness, the source of misery? So that's the thing. If you don't want misery, you don't want suffering, then you need to think, how can I distance myself from negative deeds, unwholesomeness? Continuously, night and day, I should only consider this. If you really want to be happy, peaceful, day and night you should think about the negativeness of anger, negativeness of attachment, negativeness of jealousy, negativeness of wrong competition and things like that. Whatever has been done by me through ignorance and unknowing, be it the breaking of a vow or a deed by natural wrong. So this means when we talk about doing negative deeds, there are two kinds of negative deeds. One, what we call as deed by nature wrong. And this English is a little bit funny to me. Deed by nature wrong means which are naturally bad. For everybody this is bad. Like for example, killing is bad for everybody, generally speaking. Right? Whether you are a monk or not a monk, whether you have received vows or not vows, that's a negative. That's one misdeed. The second misdeed does not occur to those people who don't take vows. For example, there are certain things the monks are not allowed, which if laymen do, maybe not improper, but if a monk does, it is improper. For somebody who has not made any promise, if he picks up few green grasses, it may not be improper. But a monk who has made such a promise unnecessarily, if you carelessly, if you dig the ground and cut the green grasses and flowers, you are breaking your vow. So depending upon whether you have taken vows or not, there are different conceptions of misdeeds. So in our case, we end up doing all transgressing the vows and also transgressing and doing those things which are naturally sinful. So I now humbly confess it all. All means both. Breaking of vow or doing things which are naturally negative. In the presence of the protectors, with folded hands, prostrating myself again and again, my mind terrified by the misery to come. Are we terrified with the wrongdoings? I think we are not terrified. It's okay. So why he is saying terrified? He is saying this, if you are genuinely concerned about the results of the negative deeds, if you are moving around and suddenly you are cornered by two lions, then you will be terrified. Then you will think about what to do, how to escape, all those things. But normally we are not terrified with these negative emotions. So our response to it is mediocre, We don't make much effort to destroy these negative emotions. The other day I give the example of somebody having swallowed poison. If you had taken poison, then you will be horrified. Immediately think about going to the hospital, seeking the help of other people. So like that. But when we do all these negative deeds, we are not so concerned. That's why we don't make much progress. So you need to think a little bit how bad this development of these destructive emotions are. I beseech all the guides of the world to please accept my transgressions and wrongs. Since these are not good, in the future I shall do them no more. So that is the thing you need to do. I committed mistakes, I acknowledge it, I'm sorry. So learn to say sorry. Learn to say sorry. That's, in ordinary life it's also very important. Learn to say sorry. If you make a mistake, then don't be arrogant, just say sorry, I made a mistake. That's it. So similarly, if you committed a mistake, learn to say sorry, and sorry is sorry from the depth of the heart, not just by the mouth. Say sorry, and then more important than that is, say sorry and then also make a promise, I will never repeat this again. So therefore, I think it was the great saint scholar Milarepa who said, if you are somebody who is concerned about purifying your negative deeds, the best way is to confess, to regret, and to make a promise never to repeat it again. Okay? So this completes chapter 2. Full acceptance of awakening mind, bodhicitta. Gladly do I rejoice in the virtue that relieves the misery of all those in unfortunate states and that gives happiness to suffering. Give happiness to the suffering. So now this is talking about rejoicing. In other words, when you are in the process of cultivation of bodhicitta, you need to collect merit. The other day I gave the example of you're inviting His Holiness Dalai Lama to Tushita. In order to invite him, you need to make certain preparations. So now in order to cultivate bodhicitta, you first need to make certain preparations. You should have enough store of merit that you can invite this mind, precious mind of bodhicitta. Okay? Now in terms of collecting the merit, there are 8 branched practices. The first one is called the branch or part of practice which is called rejoicing. Rejoicing. Rejoicing means whenever you see other people doing good things, don't get jealous, but rejoice. Somebody becoming wealthy, somebody becoming successful, somebody becoming healthy, rejoice. And especially somebody doing good dharma practice, rejoice. Don't get jealous. Encourage that person. And the advantage is, even without doing any practice, you will get almost the same benefit of that person who is practicing. Okay? So rejoicing is a wonderful practice. You may be sleeping, you're lying down comfortably on your bed and seeing other people doing good things and rejoice. Right? Rejoice. Gladly, now first you rejoice, gladly do rejoice in the virtue of virtue that relieves the misery of all those in unfortunate states and that gives happiness to the suffering. So that means whatever kind of sentient beings it is, who may be, living in the hell realms or negative state of existence for a long time, but if they are able to relieve that misery in that negative state of existence for some time, and then they are able to get some kind of relief, means some kind of rest in the state of life of human being. That means those who are in the negative state of existence, if they are reborn as a human being, that's much better. You get some respite. So when you see such happenings, rejoice. It is better to be born as a human being or a worldly god than being born in a negative state of existence like being in the hell. So when you see such things, rejoice. Okay? So that means even if you are somebody who has not practiced renunciation, bodhicitta, or selflessness, but you have practiced the 10 virtuous practices and performed virtuous practices, and then because of that, Yeah, because of that, you attain a state of life of a human being or a god, then at least there is some kind of happiness. And that gives happiness to the sufferings. Happiness to the suffering means you possess pervasive suffering, you possess suffering, you possess of suffering of change, but you have at the same time obtained this higher status of being born in a human realm or a realm of a God. So therefore you have good physical body, you have properties to enjoy, you have names and fames and wealth and so forth, as we see in our ordinary world. Right? So therefore, this is the meaning of people in happiness, even though there is suffering. Okay? And second, I rejoice in the gathering of virtue, that is the cause for the Arhat's awakening. I rejoice in the definite freedom of embodied creatures from the miseries of cyclic existence. So here you are rejoicing, even the state of enlightenment achieved by Sarvakas and Pratika Buddhas, which may also not, which may be influenced at least by renunciation and understanding of selflessness. There may be no practice of bodhicitta, okay? But because of renunciation and understanding of selflessness, you may achieve the state of Sarvaka and Pratika Buddha, okay? So that state also you should rejoice. I rejoice the gathering of virtue. That is the cause of Arhat's awakening. That is, Arhat awakening means the Sarvakas and Patika Buddhas who have destroyed negative emotions. I rejoice in the definite freedom of embodied creatures from the miseries of cyclic existence. Because they have realized emptiness, they are able to destroy cyclic existence, samsara. So when you see that, you should also rejoice. Then third, I rejoice in the awakening of the Buddha and also the spiritual levels of their children. Now in the case of those who practice not only renunciation and selflessness, but also cultivate bodhicitta and then become bodhisattvas and Buddhas, of course you should rejoice at there. Okay? And with gladness I rejoice in the ocean of virtue for developing an awakening mind that wishes all beings to be happy, as well as in the deeds that bring them benefit. With folded hands I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the lamp of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. Yeah. So if you are born in samsara and bewildered or confused with the misery, then the only way to solve that problem is to have the light of the Dharma teaching. So therefore you are now requesting. So this is called the second branch, which is called requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of Dharma, to teach. This is the second branch. Like I was also requested to give this talk, I don't know whether I should use the word teach or not, but I was requested by Tushita to give these talks. So generally, I'm nobody, but there are, great spiritual teachers who may just want to remain alone, do their practice. They are not fond of going to the crowd and talking and teaching, They are not interested in name and fame. They are not interested in surrounded by many people. So they may always remain hidden. The hidden practitioners, people who remain in solitude. So unless you go and request them to teach, they will not be going around giving teaching. They are not business-minded teachers. Today, of course, there are so many voluntary teachers. The word voluntary, I'm using it in a little bit negative sense. Generally, voluntary is good, but sometimes, with the aim to get money and other things, you announce yourself with big posters, everything just to attract people and become famous or collect money, right? So for these people, in many cases, charlatans, nobody has to request them to keep teaching. They'll be out there, always talking, speaking, But then there, in the case of the really good teachers, unless you request them, they will not teach. And there is a line in Buddhism where it says, unless you are requested, don't teach. That exactly is the line. Unless you are requested, don't teach. But then exceptions. Exception is, if you find some people who are really very interested in knowing the Dharma, but finding no teacher, if you are very sure about that, then out of compassion you can say, okay, I'll help you, I'll teach you. That's exception. But generally, unless you are requested, not give teaching. So therefore, this is the second part, requesting the teacher to give the teaching. Requesting His Holiness the Dalai Lama to give the teaching. And this is exactly what has happened with the Buddha. After he got enlightened, he was requested to give teaching, and when he was requested to give teaching, he did not accept immediately. Right? He said, I found something that is profound, peaceful, free from fabrication, clear light, unconditioned. To whomever I teach it, nobody will understand it. Leave me in peace. Let me do my meditation in the forest. He did not accept. He was requested to give the teaching several times by human beings, by devas, celestial beings. And for 7 weeks he did not teach. And during one of the later requests, the devas and human beings, they went together and said, we know that you found Dharma which is like a nectar, and people will not understand it. It's very profound, very vast. But we know there are some intelligent human beings also. So some of them might be able to understand a little bit. So please teach. So that's the thing. You have to request the teacher to teach. Now even look at Buddha, he had to be requested to give the teaching. Now he did not teach immediately because, number one, he wanted to see the seriousness of the people. Otherwise people just say, oh, can you give a talk, They just say it like that. And can you give a talk, we need to spend time kind of thing, Right? So you need to see the seriousness of the people who are requesting for the teaching, you see. Even person like me, I get a lot of requests. Even in my case also, I need to think whether it's really useful or not useful, wastage of time or not. What is the motivation? What is the intention? Right? Otherwise, it's wastage of time. The second reason is, as the Buddha said, that the Dharma that he found is really profound, really vast, really profound, really precious. And as I said, the Dharma he found was basically the law of nature, which was there already. People are not looking at it, people are not observing it, people are not seeing it, like emptiness. There is a line in one of the sutra which says, whether the Buddhas come or not, emptiness will always be there. That is the nature of phenomena. But we don't pay attention to that. Therefore we know it. We are kind of purblind, We have an eye, but we don't have an eye to see the real thing. Right? So therefore Buddha discovered that reality. He did not invent it. Impermanence is not invented by him. It is there. Suffering is not invented by him. It is there. But Buddha is saying, look, it's all there. You need to see it and live your life in accordance with that. You need to live your life in accordance with the law of nature. You can't fight against the law of nature. And particularly in my case, I'm so thankful to the law of nature. The more these days I use the word law of nature more than law of causality. Karma and fruit. When I use the word karma and fruit, it becomes a little bit, technical, Buddhistic. But if I say law of nature, I think it's easier for people to understand it. Now, I say I'm very thankful to law of nature because it's the only law of nature which no, insane people defy. You see? Unfortunately, in today's world, there are the crazy, completely crazy, insane leaders who don't hesitate killing and taking the life of other people. They don't pay a damn. Just kill them. I was once reading this biography of Mao Zedong, and one of his attendants goes to him saying there are the number of people, prostrating and shouting. Then he says, how many? I think around 40. He says, kill them. Kill them. It's happening today. Right now it is happening. Bomb them, kill them, destroy them. People are even now considering throwing nuclear bomb. They don't care. But they themselves are scared of death. So they have all built bunkers. And whether they build bunkers or not, it's only a matter of time. They will also be dead after 10, 30 years. So that's why I'm thankful to the nature. Nobody can defy that. Right? So therefore, in our ordinary case also, the only thing by which we will be more sensible is if we understand this law of nature, how it functions, impermanence, suffering, emptiness, and so forth. And when you understand that, then there will be more harmony, more peace, more happiness. Right? So that's what we are talking about. And with gladness I rejoice in the ocean of virtue for developing an awakening mind that wishes all beings to be happy, as well as in the deeds that bring them benefit. So I rejoice the aspirational bodhicitta, and I rejoice also at the engaging bodhicitta. That is what he is saying. Wishes that wishes all beings to be happy, as well as in the deeds that bring them benefit. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the lamp of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. That is the point I was explaining. Bewildered. We are a bunch of lost people, confused, not knowing what to do, what not to do. We are just simply distracted. The whole world is distracted right now, Bunch of people going up, going down, mesmerized with things. Right? Something like this. So, it's okay, I'm not against people, enjoying things, but the point is, if you don't try to understand the real source of suffering and problem, if you don't pay attention to that, you will be the one who will suffer. We will be the one who will suffer. That's what I'm saying. Right? We cannot continue our life like innocent children, We are neither like innocent children, nor like grown-up people. That's the problem. If you are innocent child, it has its own beauty. Because the innocent children, they are there because of their innocence. They fight. They fight for 2 minutes. Next day, they are friends, play together. There is less hatred, less enmity, you see. And they are happy with small things. Now, as we grow up, get the so-called education, we are not happy with anything. I want this, I want that. Then you have become all calculating. How should I speak to this person? How should I behave to this person? They are hati ka dant dikhane ke liye aur khane ke liye aur. As we have a saying in India, which is called the elephant's task. In the case of a task of elephant, there's one to show, one for eating. So we lead such complicated life, right? So therefore, one of the reasons that this Buddhist teaching is so important is it is basically saying, come home, come back home. You are lost, you are going too much outside, come home, back home. The treasure is there inside you, not outside. It is this relentless chasing outside that you get tired. It is this non-stop chasing outside, chasing after the sensual objects. I want this, I need this. It is this continuous, relentless, non-stop chasing like Angulimala. How many of you know the story of Angulimala? Okay, you can share it later to them. Angulimala, right? So because of this non-stop chasing, due to greed, lack of contentment, so forth, we get all kind of sicknesses, illnesses, depression, loneliness, all these things, because of having no inner treasure or quality, and only running outside, Your inner house is, imagine your house, you may have a beautiful house, but if you don't stay in that house for months and years and go out, America or Canada, whatever, and nobody taking care of this beautiful house, naturally it will gather cobwebs, dust. It will start dilapidating, you see. So it's like that. We have been just going out. After the 5, 6 sensual objects, this inside, beautiful house that you have inside, it is gathering dust. The dust of negative emotions, dust of anger, dust of jealousy. And nobody is looking after that, you see. Nobody is cleaning up. So these teachings are saying, let us do a major cleaning up. Major cleaning up. Okay. Where are we now? Okay, now some questions?
Speak. It's me. Just 16 months ago, one of my youngest son passed away. He was 27. He went from the beach Playa del Paso to the ocean, Atlantic Ocean in Spain. I always questioned myself it was possible to avoid it, or was it a destiny or plan or karma, his karma, my karma? He was on very high consciousness level of spirituality. He was practicing dharma since many, many years, very gifted and fast learning. He was involved in artistic projects with other artists like he was, but he wanted to become a monk. For me, he was already like a Buddha. And he was so young. I always was troubled why, Do you think that it's something that had to happen, that even from his side it was kind of call, or?
No, I don't know whether I have the correct answer, but one thing we need to know is even Buddha passed away. Even Buddha passed away, right? So all the famous teachers, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, kings, whoever, big people, great people, and also smaller people, whoever they are, that is part of the package. And now why you die depends upon what kind of karma you have, number one. Number two, what kind of immediate causes and conditions. So with the death, there are many causes. One is you die because your merit comes to an end. You may be like a fine gentleman, you're very good, but the energy, the strength of merit may not be that long. So as soon as your merit finishes, you die. Right? And then some people die because span of their life has come to an end. And what is the span of life depends from person to person. For some people, span of life may be 20, some 30, some 100. There's no definiteness. You see, ordinarily we say, okay, we should live around 80, 90, but there's no guarantee, Some people die, in your case, at least he lived for many years, but there are others who die in the womb of the mother. There are others who die just when they are born and are able to crawl. So there is no definiteness. So depending upon your merit, your lifespan, and your accidental, contributing causes and conditions, there are many factors for that. But then the important thing is, so that's why we also talk about natural death and accidental death. If your death is accidental, probably in this case, accidental, right? Then there's no need to worry, because if your span of life is not come to an end, it's just accidental, then the remaining of your span of life will continue. You take a new rebirth and that will continue. Right? So there's no like cheating. It will continue.
We all received after that, during several months in the family, the closest people, a kind of, in meditation or dreams, kind of messages of him. His brother told me he just was telling, I really enjoy my transition. Other person thought, I am much powerful now on you and on people on the earth. I am free. I can do whatever I want to. I don't mean to reincarnate even. Those are visions and of different people that was very close to him. Is it believable?
No, here you see the Buddha made one statement where he said, only a person, only me and those who are similar like me can say who is who, not ordinary people. Like for example, you all look like ordinary people to me because I'm ordinary. I see you not as you are, but I see you as I want to see you. There's the problem.
Yes.
So you may be a Bodhisattva, who knows? Mm-hmm. You cannot say, he's not a monk, he's not Bodhisattva. You can't say, he's a monk, he must be Bodhisattva. No, there's no guarantee. Good people are everywhere, in any form. So I cannot say that. So therefore the Buddha said, I cannot say who is, only me and others who are like me, that means completely enlightened, can say who is who, not otherwise. So we can't say. And then sometimes, what you thought your, deceased person said may be true. In some cases, may be not true, because we also pay a lot of attention to the so-called intuition. You hear what you want to hear. You start hearing many good things. It's your imagination. It may not be true. It may be true. So difficult to say. It differs from case to case. But now it is scientifically found that those people who, I think this is true to the Buddhist teaching. Now scientifically they found that those people who, die by accident, they have more greater capacity to remember their past lives than those people who die a natural death, generally speaking. Now my take of that scientific finding is, because you still have, as I said, your lifespan may not have actually finished, and therefore you continue with the rest of your life. So there is more likelihood of remembering your past life. For example, there are so many stories of people who are able to remember their past lives. There's a group of scientists in New York, and there are others also who did a lot of research on people who say they remember their past life. So first they did a lot of research, thousands of especially young people. They did this research in Sri Lanka and India, thinking that this may be a belief system, based on belief system, not so much reality, they thought. So they found many. Then they thought this may be different in more non-believing countries like America and Europe. And they did the same experiment there, and there also they found many people remembering their past lives. And many of them are very, very convincing. For example, there is a story of young girl who remembered her past life vividly, and she said in her past life she was shot by somebody, hit the bullet here, and the bullet came out from here, and she got killed. She remembered that. Now the interesting thing is, not only she remembered, in this very life she had a bulge here and a bulge here.
There are many stories.
Many stories, many stories.
Since he passed away, I study it every day.
Exactly.
Lot of témoignages.
Witnessed it.
Yes.
Yeah, true. Yes. So there are many who remember. My institute, library, also did some research, not big research, some small research in the Tibetan communities. And then there was one young girl. She remembered her past life, and she remembered that she was a heavy drinker. And in this life, right from her very small childhood, she was so fond of drinking. Not necessarily wine, but she was always thirsty. Wanted to drink water or something, So now how can we remember past life? If there is, no separate consciousness other than the brain, then how can we remember the past lives? Because when you die, the whole body with the brain is destroyed. So that will be an interesting area to explore more. Right? So there now, if you read those books, even the physical birthmarks many people have. Like for example, sometimes you don't grow hair somewhere, or there is a white patch somewhere on the body without any reason. So this, they say, related to past lives experience. It can be researched. And then normally people who remember their past lives are when they are quite young. Age around 4 or 5, something like that. And there was one Indian girl who remembered her past life so vividly. I think she was from Kanpur. She remembered her past life so vividly that not only she remembered some parts of her past life, but she remembered her past life's parents. And she knew the roads where to go. So she insisted that she wanted to see her parents, insisted her present life's parents. And for the first few occasions, they just ignored it. Then she was always talking about their name, their house, and everything that she was insisting. Then one day, the parents agreed, and she was able to guide them exactly all the roads, twists and turns, and lead to that family, call by their name, recognize it. So now she has how many parents? And then we heard this news, His Holiness invited this girl to Dharamsala. His Holiness met them. So there are many. So now if there is a past life, there will be definitely future life. So therefore we need to be careful. That's what I'm saying. Okay? Any other questions? Yeah. There's one down there.
Yeah, what are the benefits of the past, of remembering the past lives? If you can elaborate.
We learn from the past. In our ordinary life also we learn from the past. There's not much use thinking about past in general, but we think about past and learn from the past experiences. So likewise, when you know there was a past life, as I already said, then you know there will be a future life. The past is gone, but future life is yet to come. So you need to be careful. You need to prepare for that. Right? That's the reason, yeah.
If you practice in meditation and learning the Dharma out of fear of your next life, does that counts as good karma because your intentions are not pure. You're not practicing to do good, but you practice it out of fear.
The fear, there are different types of fear. Senseless fear and sensible fear. For example, if you are chased by a mad dog, it is good to have fear. If you don't have fear and see there, the mad dog will bite you, right? Now if you are flying in an aeroplane, there is a big turbulence, then to have fear is meaningless, because there's nothing you can do. So instead, better listen to music and enjoy the food, whatever, you know. So like that. In this case, it's not meaningless fear, it's sensible fear. Fear means not the kind of fear which will, bring your spirit down. The fear which will provoke you to do the good things. That's important, yeah. Okay?
First of all, I'm really sorry about the lady that lost her child. It really touched me.
Huh?
I'm sorry about the lady that lost her child. It's really the most hardest thing in life, I think, to lose a child. My question is about happiness.
Yeah.
You said that there's happiness does not last forever. For example, the cake. When you eat a cake, after 15 minutes, the happiness vanishes.
Yeah.
So, what kind of happiness does last forever? Like when you reach enlightenment.
Yeah.
And nirvana, does nirvana last forever?
Yeah. So first you need to make a distinction between happiness and pleasure. The kind of happiness that you get by tasting a piece of cake is not so much happiness, but it is pleasure. Pleasures we get from enjoying the sensual objects, like tasting a piece of cake and seeing a beautiful show, things like that. But that is not long-lasting. True, you are right. But what we are trying to do is to cultivate long-lasting happiness. And that long-lasting happiness is possible because what obstructs long-lasting happiness is the development of negative emotions. And when you do away with these negative emotions, or at least the less you have negative emotions, the more you have more reliable happiness. That's why we do see some people, whether they are practitioner or not practitioner, but because of their past lives, habits or whatever, their parentage or whatever, some people you will always find very peaceful, very happy, right? So more or less they are continuously kind of happy. Then there are others who are always disturbed. So this basically shows the possibility to have long-lasting happiness. And happiness basically is related to satisfaction. When you live a life where you have not done anything wrong, but instead you have done something very good, then there is a satisfaction. Yes, I lived my life properly. So happiness basically means satisfaction. Okay? Yeah. Which is related to the mind, not to the senses. Yeah.
Can I? Sorry.
Just another second question to you, practicing because of fear. If I practice because of fear, isn't that the proof that I believe it already? Because otherwise I wouldn't fear what happens to me.
Yeah, you have to believe the destructiveness of negative emotion. Yeah. So therefore, true, you're right. So therefore we say, in order to safely take refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, you need to have two things, fear and faith. And you develop fear, not because if you don't do this, Buddha will punish you, not in that sense. Yeah, but you develop this fear or unhappiness thinking that if I don't do this, I will suffer. You have this concern. So that kind of fear comes if you have good understanding. That's what I said, most of us don't fear negative emotions. Therefore, we are not able to do practice, Therefore, we say, we do say samsara is not good, but deep down we all feel samsara is so far quite good. I can go for a picnic in Goa, I can go for this, samsara is quite good. Yeah.
I want to ask a question. This is regarding This is regarding organ donation.
Yeah.
What is the Buddhist take? Because I know that a lot of Buddhists go into deep meditation when they die.
Yeah.
But isn't giving organs also a kind of generosity?
Of course. Yesterday I told you the story of Aryadeva who gave away his eye. And then among the Tibetan society, I know many people who, donated their organs. I know many people who do that. That's very, very important. But you need to make sure that you are, again, not doing that in a senseless way or not for money or things like that. Yeah. Of course, very important. And especially when you are dead, then let people use your body in whatever way. Don't worry. Yeah.
But don't they say in Buddhist tradition that we shouldn't touch the body for 3 days?
This is
And you have to take the organs right after that.
good question, very good question. Yeah, at least you should make sure that that person is clinically announced dead, but biologically not dead. So as soon as that person gets up from its meditation, the indication is that person is now even in, because we say 3 days because you are not so sure whether the mind has departed or not. But it's not necessary that you wait for 3 days. Sometimes you know that this person is dead, then you just dispose that body. For example, in places like Nepal, there have been cases of people who they thought dead, and then they went to cremate, and then he got back to life. So now in Nepal there is a tradition, when somebody dies, they take it to the river and put the feet, the sole of the feet, in the water. When you do that, if that person is not dead, he comes back to he revives. So called, yeah, things like that. So yeah. Then there are meditators who may remain in meditation for 15 days or 4 days, 5 days. Then biologically they are not dead. Clinically they are announced dead. Biologically they are not dead. So as soon as you know that they got up from their meditation, it means that this blood will come from here and the kind of sputum comes from the two noses. That means that person is now dead or gone. Then you can immediately use those organs.
I think we need to know the cause of death. Look at the world, I see death all around. I was brought up in a very Christian family where death is married pretty much like a terrorist burial. If you don't change, you're going to die and you'll go to hell. And there's a lot of that in Buddhism when I listen to you, where death is pretty much a threat. And unless you change your life, in this life you won't go into the, I can say correctly, the recycling life. I do personally believe that you can live, and there's many, many good things, positive things in Buddhism that I appreciate and respect. It does make sense to change your life in order to be positive with others, in order to be constructive, in order to be good with others. All of that makes a lot of sense. Do I really need to have threat of death to change and make this change? I don't believe so. So this is a bit provocative, and I like to be provocative. But why do I see in Buddhism pretty much the same thing I see in Christianism, which is some sort of terrorism of death?
Now now in Buddhism, one very important thing that you need to do is you should use your common sense, your reasoning power. And so with your reasoning power, if you think this way of thinking is not good, you have every right to give up. That is one number, general answer. Then second answer is, we are not threatening that if you don't do this, Buddha will punish you. If you don't do this, immediately you will go to hell. Not like that. We are saying that if you don't do this, you will suffer. In that sense. So the word fear, I don't know whether it's the English correct. In Tibetan also the word is more or less fear, but that fear is based on understanding, not that somebody said there is hell, you will go to there, without understanding. But as we have already given the example, even when you go down through a slippery slope, when there is a risk of slipping and falling down, naturally fear will come. So you have to be very careful. So I think something like that. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe something like that, yeah.
The next question,
Yeah.
when some lama or people remain in meditation...
Where are you? Okay.
When some lama or people remain in meditation after death,
Yeah.
does that mean that they also automatically have control over the reincarnation process?
Most likely. Most likely. I am saying most likely, but I can't say because I heard a story. I'm a little bit sometimes I'm a little bit, revolting also. I don't believe everything that is said there in the text. I use my brain. So generally speaking, of course, the lamas passing away, remaining in meditation is wonderful. But there are also cases of people who die, for example, in a fight, conflict. Now they are so angry and trying to be so strong to fight the enemy and not to die. In such cases, even when that person is hit with many bullets and is basically dead, but he would still stay there like this. Is this in meditation or what? I mean, definitely not in meditation because of good thinking. But what I'm saying is, you're simply not being able to immediately leave the body doesn't necessarily mean it is good, generally speaking. Because there are other cases of parents, who love their children so much that they can't die easily. Right? So it depends. We can't say who is who.
We have one question online also. Yeah.
Hello.
Let's see if it works. Yeah.
Hello, Geshe La. My question is, the second chapter is about the purifying one's evil, but the whole chapter doesn't talk about the evil until verse 28. So my question is, why is the chapter started with such an extent content of offerings first before going to the evil?
Yeah, as I think you may remember, I mentioned that when you talk about cultivating bodhicitta, so if we personify bodhicitta, then first you need to make yourself a suitable place to welcome bodhicitta. Okay? Now in that case, of course, purifying your negative emotions is, in the long run is the most important thing. But first you need to welcome that important guest by making offerings. Something like that, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
For an ordinary person, how do you know that this person is really biologically dead? Because I thought it was just a continuing question to the other one that I asked, to say you see that the person is dead when the blood.
Yeah.
So an ordinary person doesn't go into meditation.
No, normally, when we say clinically dead, it is because your brain stops functioning. So there are a number of signs by which you can say that person is dead. But then that is not the end of all the judgment, because when you say clinically dead, but still the very subtle consciousness may not have gone out of that person. So still that person biologically not dead. Yeah. Yeah.
But Geshe, doesn't that create the problem of organ donation? Because in Western medicine,
Yeah.
there is an immediate need to harvest the organ, but according to subtle consciousness, I don't think Western doctors and hospitals are prepared to go through subtle consciousness before they would take someone's organ. So it's a kind of a
Yeah, it's a kind of dilemma, but not so big, because fortunately, unfortunately, there will not be many who will be, staying in their subtle consciousness in meditation. There will not be many. Okay. All right. Lunch. Thank you.